Hey everyone, we are in week 2 of art class, super exciting. So today we're going to be going over our class syllabus, our class policies, excuse me, and our artistic thinking process. So first of all, let's go over our expectations. Number 1, be on time. This means be on time to class and be on time with assignments. If you are learning through Google Classroom online from home, this means to check into our Google Classroom every day, make sure you're caught up, and also to communicate with me if you're having any issues with turning in an assignment on time due to technology issues or anything that comes up. Please let me know. Communicating with me is better than not, just so I can know what's going on with you. If you ever need any help, I'm always here. I'll give you my contact information in a second. Number 2 is to be considerate and respectful of others. So when we're in class, we need to make sure that we are focused on our work. We're not distracting everyone around us. We're being respectful of everyone's space, and we're being respectful of everyone's time. So, just, I don't know how else to explain it besides just being respectful. Awesome. Okay, so number 3 is to use class time wisely. This kind of goes into number 2 as well, but showing good work ethic and effort. This means that you are on task on your assignments. You're not distracting yourself or others with outside things that we shouldn't be doing during class. If you use your class time wisely, you will likely not have much homework in this class, which is really cool because I know other classes have a lot of homework. So let's use our class time that we have and in order to not have homework. Number 4 is to help keep the room clean. We have a lot of students that come in and out of this classroom. It's very respectful for everyone to keep the room clean. I'm going to be sanitizing our desks between every class. I ask that if you make a mess on your desk, like you spill a bunch of paint, or if you have a bunch of little eraser bits all over the place, that you clean that up before class ends. Usually we'll have the last 15-20 minutes to clean up depending on, how many supplies we have out. So if you can just, wet a paper towel, wipe that stuff off before I come around and sanitize, it's going to be very helpful for me and very helpful for the next class so that we can all stay on task. I know it's not fun to come to a classroom and your desk has all this gunk on it and you can't set your papers down. So yeah, let's be respectful of the space. Number 5 is to keep artwork and supplies in proper storage places. In Art 1, all of you will have a portfolio that you can store your artwork and your supplies in. We'll talk a little bit more about that in our syllabus, but you need to make sure that you are keeping your supplies stored in your portfolio and you're taking it with you. If you leave a bunch of stuff in the classroom, I don't know if it's going to get back to you, and I probably won't have any extra watercolor palettes or pencils or anything to give to you. I will try to hold it in my lost and found behind my desk, but I can't guarantee that you'll get it back, and that's going to end up setting you behind on projects. So please keep up with your supplies. If you borrow supplies from the classroom, I need to make sure they get back to the classroom. We'll also talk a little bit more about that in our syllabus. Number 6 is to follow directions. If we're having a work day, I need you to be focused on your work. If I am giving a demonstration on how to do something, or if I'm, lecturing about a cool artist or something, like we need to be listening and focused. And number 7 is have fun. If you aren't having fun in art class, we need to have a discussion. A lot of your projects this year are going to allow you to explore different mediums and ideas and topics that you're interested in. So, you're all going to be kind of given a little bit of leeway on what we're doing. We're not all going to be drawing the same thing at the same time, or sometimes we won't even all be using the same mediums at the same time. Like some of you may be painting, some of you may be drawing with your drawing pencils. So with that freedom comes a lot of responsibility, but also you should be having a decent time in art class. And if you're not, let's talk about it. We will try to figure out how to get you back on track and enjoying your project. Okay, so we're going to go over our syllabus. I have not uploaded it just yet, but when I do upload it, it will be right here under class information. It will be one of these tabs, and it will say Visual Art 1 Syllabus. So first of all, this is probably some of the most important info to look at. If you ever need to contact me, if you're learning at home or if you're out of class and you're very confused about something or you need help, I'm always reachable via email all the time. You can also call me during my office hours, which are Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, between 10:30 and 11:55. To do that, you'll just call the high school, and when it asks for a phone extension, my phone extension is 50413. So let's talk a little bit about Art 1. It's a 2-semester course designed to teach students to apply the elements of art and principles of design. Students will be introduced to a variety of media, processes, and tools to create original artwork that demonstrates understanding of aesthetic concerns and complex compositions. You will create, critique, reflect, and develop portfolios that reflect personal growth. So in this class, we will be utilizing open art room concepts. It will focus on student choice of media and concepts or ideas behind the created works. And we will also use the artistic thinking process while still teaching art concepts and vocabulary as they pertain to the Arkansas State frameworks. So we're going to be learning all the things we need to learn in art class. We'll be building upon our understanding of different media, which basically means, the different materials that we use in the class. So painting, drawing, etc. But you will also have a little bit of freedom in what you are choosing to do. So if you're really interested in, fish like Henry Matisse was here, then we can center one of your projects around fish. And I hope that's going to give all of you a little bit of excitement in art. So we've gone over our required supply list. It is under our class information in our Google Classroom, if you need to pull it up. The next week or so, we are really going to need our number 2 pencils, but the rest of this can come in next week. We'll really start getting started on our projects. If you have any questions about that, just contact me. So this is probably one of the most important things we're going to go over today. It's our grading policies. They're called the 5 C's. So you will be receiving grades for everything you do in this class. That might be sketches, worksheets, writing assignments, bell assignments, and our major assignments, major projects. And they will be graded according to these criteria. So the first is composition and craft development. So this means that you turn in the assignment with excellent evidence of planning and sketching. So you used your sketchbook, you planned out what you wanted to do, you have notes or you have little drawings of ideas. Your finished work shows evidence of a combination of ideas, methods, and concepts that we've discussed in class, as well as the elements and principles that work together for the overall design. Your work should demonstrate an understanding of and ability to manipulate these concepts. So you're taking them and inputting your originality and your individualism, just like we talked about in class last week when we talked about creativity. To really succeed in this area and to get an A, that means you went above and beyond expectation. The material, tools, and processes used were chosen intentionally and applied with care, and a student skillfully incorporated new techniques. So this means that you're really focusing on the things that we're talking about in class and you're applying them to your artwork, but you're also inputting a little bit of your own idea and your originality into your project. Okay, so the next C is creativity. This means that your finished work successfully expressed an individual style using personal experience and past knowledge. Personal expression is unique and well thought out. Work is visually appealing, sorry. So this means this is bouncing off of that last one, really focused on your individual style and how you interpret this project and make it your own. The next C is craftsmanship. So the artwork is pristine and well kept with a professional finish and level of detail that shows pride in the work. So I can tell that I should be able to tell that you really focused on the project and you took a lot of time and effort. You didn't ignore any areas of the painting or project. So if you didn't paint half of a flower or something, your craftsmanship grade would go down a little bit. This means that you really paid attention to every part of the project, and I can see that you really cared for it. So captivity is basically how you use time in class. This means that you used time, your effort, excuse me. This means that you used your time wisely in class and you gave a lot of effort to the finished work. You were actively engaged in class, self-motivated, you weren't distracted, and maybe even took the work home to do more than expected or required if you really wanted to do that. Yeah. So completion in depth, this is the finished work being successfully executed from concept to completion. So you were successful all the way through the whole process. You had an original approach using all of the artistic thinking processes. All of the requirements above were met and exceeded. All the requirements of the project were met and exceeded. Your concept and media techniques were explored. So you spent time and you really cared about this project. And you really considered and completed patiently everything that you needed to for this assignment. So if you follow the 5 C's, you will likely be very successful in this class. Okay, so the next thing we're going to talk about are portfolios and supplies. Let me see. Cool. Okay, so you will be given a portfolio and individual supplies. This is in addition to the required supply list. So while you are bringing these for yourself, I will be giving you a couple different items. So like oil pastels, watercolor, palette, some paintbrushes. I will be providing those things. You can store those things in your portfolio. I will also be giving you a portfolio. And you will need to take all of that home with you every day and bring it back to class when you have our class. Please keep track of these supplies. We reuse them every year, so you'll be using them this year. Someone new will be using them next year. It's really important that we get them back and that they're not, damaged very badly. I understand, we'll be using them quite a bit. I know oil pastels break pretty easily. If you break a couple oil pastels, it's not going to be the end of the world. We're fine, but make sure you're respecting the materials that I give you, and you're not just leaving them laying around or damaging them to damage them. Yeah, and don't draw or write on your portfolio because we also use those every year. If you have any questions about supplies or anything, please let me know. Okay, so classroom policies, these are important. We've already talked a little bit about cell phones. This week we're gonna really kind of hunker down on this. Cell phones may not be used in class unless I tell you to for educational purposes, or if it's a work day and it's okay to listen to music. If you are listening to music, you can use one earbud or have the volume at a moderate level in order to be aware of your surroundings and to hear me talk. So if you can't hear me when I'm talking to the class, you need to turn the volume down or take an earbud out. If you're using your cell phone during class time outside of these guidelines, so if you're on your phone listening to music or doing anything while I'm teaching, not okay. If you are texting, looking through TikTok, looking at Instagram, whatever, if you're doing anything besides listening to music during work time, not okay. That's not going to be cool in the classroom because we have to stay on task. The first time you are off task doing anything that's not allowed, you will receive a warning. And then after that, you'll be given a discipline notice and I will take your phone to the office. At that point, a parent or guardian will have to pick your phone up That's not fun. You can see the handbook for more information. I don't want to have to get to that point, so let's be respectful of this policy and happy that we can listen to music in art class and not disrespect this. Awesome. Okay. Any questions, please let me know. All right. So the next one is shared supplies and tools. On occasion, we will have shared supplies in the class. This doesn't mean we'll be sharing with our classmates. If, for example, you need a ruler and the person sitting next to you needs to use a ruler, they need to raise their hand and ask me for one. They can't use the one that you've used because I have to make sure that everything is sanitized. If I hand anything out at the end of class, I will need it back. I have a bucket. I'm sure all of you have seen it. That I will come around and collect all of our materials in. So if I loan you a colored pencil, you'll need to put it in the bucket. You can't give it to anyone else. You can't put it back in the colored pencil box because I will need to sanitize it. You may not take tools out of the classroom unless I give you permission to do so. Misuse of art materials will result in the loss of your privilege to use them and or disciplinary action depending on the situation. So, rulers aren't weapons. Don't use anything how it's not supposed to be used. We need to be really respectful of our tools and our classmates. So this is a very important policy for art class. And we've already talked about cleaning up after yourself, but please, that is very important. Okay, so appropriate artwork. So we cannot make artwork in art class that has profanity, nudity, gang-related information, alcohol or drugs, or anything that's disrespectful to certain people. Basically, if it's in our student handbook, we need to abide by that in art class as well. So yeah, if you have any questions, it's way better to ask me than to just go ahead and do it. Excuse me. Yeah, so that's a very important policy for art class. Please abide by it. Yes, any questions, please let me know. So Google Classroom. We will utilize Google Classroom to complete assignments and projects. This will require you to photograph your artwork and turn it in most of the time. We'll go over documentation of artwork, but if you, I understand not everyone has like the most high quality, photo taking device. Our phones are fine to take pictures of your artwork with. I just ask that you're aware of like the lighting. So if you're taking a picture of your artwork in a dark room and I can't really see it, that's not really going to be great for me grading. I want to be able to grade your work to the best of my ability. I want to be able to help you improve and to be able to see your assignment and the details of it. For now, my number one pointer would be to take a picture of your artwork outside when it's sunny outside, or to take a picture of it next to a window so that you're getting natural light on the artwork. But we can talk about that later. Okay, so finally for classroom policies, we have absenteeism. If you're absent from class in person, like if you're at home or if you're missing class for a day, it is your responsibility to check our Google Classroom for missed lessons and assignments on a daily basis. So make sure you're staying up to date. I will be posting in our stream probably every day when we have an assignment. Any important information will be posted here. And then our classwork will always be under this tab. Our class videos will always be here. You can see I already have 2 of them. They will be dated according to the date that the lesson happened, so you can keep up. Make sure you're up on that. And then all of our assignments will be listed just like this. So right now we're on Unit 1. These were our 3 Unit 1 assignments. If you have any questions or trouble with Google Classroom, please let me know. Okay, finally, I'm not going to read this part, but this is for you to read and complete on your own with your parent. I just want to know that you understood the syllabus. If you have any questions, please contact me. Excuse me. And then you can sign your name here. The parent will need to sign here. And to sign this, you can just type your name in and turn it in on Google Classroom. Great. If you have any questions about the syllabus, please email me. I would love to answer any questions. Okay, so we have gone over our class syllabus. The next thing we're going to do is talk about the artistic thinking process. This is really important for everything we're going to be doing in our class this semester and the year. If you've been in science class and you've talked about like the scientific method, how you approach researching and doing a project in science class, this is a little bit similar, but it's our art method basically. Any big assignment you do, we will be using this process. So it's important that you understand it. But we're going to go into it in depth here. So if you have any questions, email me. You can comment on our Google Classroom. I'll be posting on the stream, and you can always comment questions there if you don't want to email. But yeah, let's get going. So number one, the first thing that we'll think about when we start a new project is our inspiration. So this means, what do I want to make? Let's say we are starting a project with, we're going to do a still life, and you get to choose the objects. Well, where are you going to find the inspiration? Do you want to look at your favorite things that you have in your room, or maybe you like a part of your house, like your kitchen? Maybe your kitchen table always looks really cool and you really want to draw it. Those are two things that count as inspiration. I have a bigger list here. This list isn't final. You can find inspiration in lots of places, but here are a few examples. So some people might find inspiration within research. So if you really think that medieval Europe is really cool, you learned about it in history class, and you really want to look at medieval art because of that, that's awesome. We can do a project on medieval Europe. So basically, that would mean that you are finding ideas and you're really excited and inspired by that period of time. So you would do research on the different art styles of that time. You would look at different artists. You would research maybe how people lived in that time, like what artwork was important for them to have around. Any kind of research applies here. The second thing could be observation. So I have included this photo of a house. Maybe you have like a photo of a place you've been, or you think your backyard or the park downtown is really cool and you really want to draw that. That's a good source of inspiration. You can also draw from personal experience. So we can use the same picture as an example. Let's say this is your childhood home and you have a lot of memories there. So you really want to draw it. That's great. That counts as a personal experience that we can recreate in art class. You can also do a project according to opinions and beliefs. So if you have like a belief you feel strongly about, maybe you enjoy going to church a lot, you want to do a project about that. Awesome, that is a source of inspiration. Function and aesthetics. So for that one, I have a painting of a vase by Van Gogh. I know a lot of you probably know who Van Gogh is. He painted Starry Night. Maybe you're very inspired by the way that he paints and you want to try to recreate his painting style. His brushstrokes are very particular. The way that he paints is very unique. That's a great thing to want to explore. If you have a favorite artist, that can always be an awesome source of inspiration, and we can definitely dive into that. Self-expression is the next one. I have an example of this painting by Anna Valdez. She had some art in Crystal Bridges a couple years ago, and I really enjoyed it. But I enjoy the way that she expresses herself through her art. So she's basically chosen this subject matter as kind of a personal expression, because you can see that she has all of these plants, all of these little pictures in the background that she's chosen to include in this painting. And she's expressing herself personally with her personal interests through this painting. So maybe she really loves taking care of plants and she loves caring for things. Maybe she really loves milk, or she has a memory tied to milk, you know? So that's a form of self expression because she's taking something personal and she's used it as a source of inspiration. Themes are also a really good source of inspiration. So here I have the color blue. Your theme can be as simple as that. Like, I really want to use the color blue. That's great. Other themes could be nature. You can do nature or weather. You could choose your theme to be sports if you're really interested in sports. If you're interested in a specific medium, like here I have some oil pastels, that is also a good inspiration for your work. Yeah, so inspiration is very open-ended and it's really important for us to get started and get excited about what we're doing. Number 2 is development. This means, how do I make my idea visual in the best way that I can? When we think about development, there are a couple methods that artists can use to develop ideas. Well, more than a couple. Most of my lists here today are not final. But the examples that I have are sketching to find composition. So we can use our sketchbooks to find different compositions or viewpoints of things that we like to draw. So composition basically means the way that you lay out a picture. So if I decide to have my vase, my flower vase, to the right of my image, and I crop it a little low so the whole flower vase is not in view, but I've focused in on one part of it, that's a composition. We'll talk a lot more about that later. Another way to develop your idea is to create a practice version. So maybe we'll have an assignment where you're going to draw on a paper that's 15 inches by 11 inches. That's a pretty big drawing. And maybe you want to practice it before you get going, because I know sometimes it's hard to get started on those because you're like, what if I mess up? How do I fix it? So a great way to combat that is to create a smaller practice version of your assignment before you start on the actual final project that you're going to turn in. That may mean that you are doing a color study in your sketchbook, or you're just getting a smaller piece of paper to practice on. Okay, so making a model. This might apply more to a 3D project. Sometimes if you're doing like if you're in ceramics class, you may want to make this big, intricate kind of vase or something. Sometimes it's easier if you start small and make that thing small, and then you can understand how it works and you can see the issues that you might face when building it big, and you can create a smaller version in order to be better prepared to make the larger version. This kind of goes into making a practice version. So the next way that we can develop ideas is to incorporate our research and to learn new information. So if we're continuing to develop our ideas about our project, if we are, let's go back to our Van Gogh example from number 1. Researching his technique in painting, looking up some of his paintings online and zooming in really closely to see how he uses the paintbrush, seeing what kind of colors he usually uses, like his color palettes, just collecting all the information we can. That's really important. That is another method that we can use to develop our ideas. The next one is to practice technique. So if you just started using watercolors and you're a little hesitant to, jump in to get going, I know watercolors are really loose, so they can be have a really big learning curve for some people, which is completely normal. Sometimes it's a lot easier to practice using them before we start a big project. So you can do a whole sheet where you're just like coloring the painting the color blue just to get used to how the watercolor moves, to start to understand how much water you may need, like your water to paint ratio. That's a really good way to start practicing before you begin so that you can better understand your material. The last one I have is to experiment with new ideas, media, and methods. So this just means like if you want to experiment a lot before you jump into anything, like you have all of these ideas and you don't know which one you want to focus on. Maybe you spend a couple pages in your sketchbook just jotting all your ideas down, practicing with multiple forms of mediums. If you can't like decide on watercolor versus oil pastels, maybe you should try to use them in your sketchbook side by side and see what technique you like better, which one you think will work better for the assignment, using different methods. Basically, this is just like practice, developing your ideas further by utilizing a little bit more research if you need to. Research can be personal research. It can also be more academic research where we are looking at other topics. Your research can also include like collecting materials. Like if you really want to learn how to draw leaves better, like go out and collect a bunch of leaves and press them in your sketchbook, and then you can draw them side by side to learn, you know, how the different veins usually move. Leaves often kind of decay really cool, like they'll start to have yellow and orange and different colors in them, and you can study that leaf like really closely to see how those colors change. Yeah, this part of the artistic process is kind of fun. I think all this this preliminary work that we do to our actual projects gives us a lot of opportunity to just have fun and go with it, and enjoy what we're doing. And you can always, if you decide that you're like, I really thought I was going to be into this, but I'm not, we can talk about that and we can find out what parts you don't like, and we can find out what parts you are really enjoying, and try to better accommodate your assignment for that. Number 3 is creation. This is how do I apply what I've developed into a successful artwork. So this is the actual like hands-on starting to make my artwork, part of the artistic thinking process. So some things to consider as you are making your artwork is reflection. At all times of making your artwork, we should be thinking about how it looks. We should be thinking about what will people who are looking at my artwork see, and we should also think about what we're trying to communicate and what our intention is within our artwork, and if we think that's coming through. Art is not like something that, you know, it's just done once you've done it. Art can always be like revised and worked on. Sometimes it's really hard to pinpoint the spot that it's done. Some artists say that their work is never done. They just happen to stop at that time. Yeah, but throughout the creation of our projects, we can always be thinking about these things and improving it. If you have an area of your painting that, you know, when you drew it at first, you thought it looked really good, compositionally, but after you looked at it, you were like, there's a huge blank spot and there's nothing there, and it doesn't look great. Like my artwork isn't balanced. We can talk about adding something there or figuring out how to maybe use paint differently or a different technique to like create texture in that area. I know some of us watched that video on art conservation. I think it was the artist Rousseau, and they used the X-ray technique to see underneath the painting. Excuse me, that he had originally drawn a vase, and they realized that they could see that sketch, but the final product of his painting, the final painting, didn't have the vase in it. Well, that's an example of that artist using reflection and revision during the creation of his artwork. he realized that the vase maybe made the painting look too busy, so he decided to take it out. That's okay. We can always, the first thing that you draw doesn't have to be what ends up on your final result of your painting. We always have the freedom to improve our artworks as we're making them. Okay. Number 4 is reflecting. So this is analyzing what you see, collecting information for revision and future art making. So this is kind of like after we've gotten to a stopping point with our artwork. We will think about how you can make improvements to it. What is something from the assignment that you struggled with, and what would you like to work on in future projects? So right here, I kind of thought of the example of, if you're in English class and you're working on an essay, one of the final steps is to revise your work. Like you would go through and check your grammar, maybe fix some run-on sentences. The same thought applies to making art. We can, of course, always make improvements on our art. If you notice something you really struggled with during your assignment, maybe that's something we need to focus on in your next assignment. So if you really had trouble shading something, maybe your next assignment we should explore shading a little bit, and we should try to kind of expand on that skill so that you get to a place where you're comfortable. Also, as we do projects, it might become evident to you that you really like certain mediums and you really don't like certain mediums. Personally, I really don't like charcoal because it gets my fingers dirty. I know some people really love charcoal, but I learned that because I did a project with charcoal. And now when I make something, I'm like, maybe I don't want to use that. Maybe I'd rather use watercolors. So as we're working on our assignments, you should be reflecting like after about the things that you think you could fix, and things that you might be interested in tackling in the future. It's okay in art class if you don't feel like you're good at something. To be an artist, you don't have to be amazing at everything. There are 100% artists that really don't like to draw. It's a common misconception that to be an artist, you have to know how to draw really well. It's not true at all. We all have our favorite ways about going about things. We all have our different talents. Everyone's talented in different areas. So the important thing is to learn to understand that. I don't say that to make it a point. Well, I don't say that to be a misconception. Like if you just if you don't put effort into drawing and that's why you're not good at it, that's a completely different thing. If we're putting effort into it and you're just like, I just really don't connect with this, that's different than not putting effort into something for the sake of not putting effort into it because you just don't want to do the assignment. So yeah, I hope that's clear. But awesome, let's go to the next thing. Number 5, this is the last step. It is sharing. So this is collaborating with others, giving and receiving feedback, and presenting your work, and finding ways to improvise and revise. So I kind of like focused on the collaboration part because I think a lot of this has to do with understanding where we're at in reference to the feedback that we get and maybe learning from our peers. So the first one is, how did my peers approach this assignment? What do I like about their approach that's different from mine? Or even what do you dislike about their approach that's different from yours? We all have our opinions. It's, the same in art class as is real life. If your peer does something and you're like, whoa, that was really cool, I really want to try that next time, that's awesome. Like that's an opportunity to collaborate. You can both share your skills. That your classmate can give you pointers and be like, hey, I tried this on my assignment and it really helped me. Maybe you should try that too. Art making is very community based. We're always helping each other out. If you become an artist, the artist, we call it the critique. It's very important Sounds a little scary, but it's basically just sharing your artwork with other people and getting feedback from them. And that's really important because at the end of the day, when you create artwork, typically it's going to be consumed by other people. It might exist in a gallery, or you might put it online. Other people are going to be viewing it. Artists will typically find those opinions and the feedback that they get to be important in order for them to improve. So you can focus on what feedback you got from the project and what you can work on to make your next project even better. In art, much like a lot of other subjects, we're always looking to improve on our skills and our understanding of what we're doing. So sharing and providing respectful and helpful feedback to our peers can be really important in art, and it can help us grow. And I think that is all we have for the artistic thinking process. If you have any questions about this, let's talk about it. We can open a discussion on our Google Classroom if that helps. But this will be a good thing to reference through the semester. And I will either upload this PowerPoint or a sheet detailing all of this to our Google Classroom so you can reference it. But we'll probably talk about it on a project by project basis as well. So great, I hope you liked the class today. I think this is pretty fun. It's exciting to learn about just how open art can be and how you can interpret each project on your own. So yeah, I hope this starts to get us set up to really start working on projects and learning more in art class.